Good evening, Farmington Hills. I will now call to order the regular City Council meeting of October 11th for the City of Farmington Hills at 7:30 p.m. We will begin with calling the meeting to order, and now the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have a flag?
Yes, right there.
There we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is the roll call.
Mayor Barnett,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Bullower,
Here.
Council Members Bridges,
Yes.
Knoll, here, Massey,
Present.
Newland,
Here.
Strickfaden.
Here.
Thank you.
Next is the approval of the agenda. Does everybody have the agenda?
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mayor?
Yes.
I move that I move that the city council approves the agenda as published.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Bridges, seconded by Councilmember Newland. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Next is a proclamation recognizing October 21 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Mary Newland, would you like to read that?
It's a proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October 2021. Whereas since approximately 1 in 8 U.S. women, about 13% will develop invasive breast cancer over the course of their lifetime, the National Breast Cancer Awareness Month is dedicated to increasing public knowledge about the importance of early detection. And whereas breast cancer is the most common cancer in women in the U.S. except for skin cancer, and breast cancer death rates are higher than those of any other cancer except for lung cancer. And whereas in 2020, over 281,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer and over 49,000 new cases of invasive in situ breast cancer were diagnosed, and over 43,000 women in the U.S. died in 2020 with breast cancer. And whereas the overall death rate from breast cancer decreased by 1% per year from 2013 to 2018 due to the increased awareness, treatment advances, and earlier detection through screening with mammogram, which is recognized as the single most effective method of detecting breast changes that might be cancerous long before physical symptoms become apparent. And whereas there are over 3.8 million women with history of breast cancer in the U.S. today, including women currently being treated and those who have finished undergoing treatment. Therefore, be it resolved that Vicki Barnett, Mayor of Farmington Hills, on behalf of City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and encourage everyone to become aware of the risk for breast cancer, ongoing regular screenings for early detection, and if diagnosed, talk to their healthcare providers about treatment options that are available.
Thank you. And I have the proclamation here. I just want to say one thing before I turn it over to the fire department who will be accepting this. My daughter was diagnosed at the age of 31. So every woman with a history of breast cancer in her family, don't forget to make that appointment and get your annual mammogram. And just remember that it's very important to take care of yourself even during a pandemic. So thank you very much. She's doing very well. And I'm very pleased to report that early diagnosis does save lives. Thank you. Oh, great, thank you. Okay, will do.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Thank you very much for this proclamation. It means a great deal to us. Once again, your Farmington Hills firefighters designed a breast cancer awareness t-shirt for this year. It's a very cool design.
Very nice.
For the month of October, you'll see firefighters wearing them on duty, symbolizing our support for breast cancer awareness. With me this evening is Battalion Chief Steve Beeble, who will share with you some information about how to obtain the shirts and the good things that the firefighters have done with the proceeds that are obtained as a result of selling the t-shirts.
Once again, thanks to all of you guys. We get enormous support from you and we understand it. And this is one of the things that we like to do every year. We've been doing it for 6 years now. And it's a chance to give back to the city as well as the council. You guys get your shirts there. We do have a limited number of them still available. We experimented a little bit with an online store, so we were a little bit abridged this year. But the great thing about it, this is our 6th year doing it now, and we're very fortunate that we've been granted permission to wear these. It's a little bit of a challenge, not only to raise the money, but heighten awareness, which Vicki already said is very important. The more people that see this and ask questions about it, the more we can share with them the information that we know that she just stated. And at the same time, by selling the shirts and generating some funds, which every year we've donated to the Botsford Cancer Association down there, and they deliver the monies and the assistance directly back into the city. Anybody from Farmington Hills that needs help getting to their appointments, needs assistance with their co-pays, needs a wig or anything like that, that's how the Cancer Foundation has told us that they've used the funds. And we've contributed significantly. They're very excited every year to receive the donation, not to mention the fun that we get to have by being allowed to wear these and show them off and interact with the people when they ask us a lot of questions. So the great thing about it is you're enabling us to do something that gives us a little bit of fun, a little bit of challenge, and at the same time, it generates a ton of funds that are going back into the city to help the people paying our salaries. So it's a great thing. We love doing it, and we appreciate the continued support. If anybody did want to get a hold of it, you can contact Station 5, the firefighters at Station 5, or we will give you a telephone number, because we do have a limited number of them available. You guys get every year we give you a sample, because the chief has our new design every year. You got to give you the first ones to have it, because the more people that see them, the more they come have it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. Has anybody received correspondence? Yes, Jackie?
Yes, I received, I think you and I both received the same piece of correspondence, and I'll forward it out over to you, Pam, from Brandon Doolin, who had some concerns regarding what he has classified as pornography at the library. And I informed him that I would be sending it over to the library board, since we don't have oversight of the library in general, and they could respond to that, his email.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we did all receive a letter from Richard Sundquist.
Yes.
And I forwarded it to the city attorney today, and we will, to Richard and to Karen Bolson, we will be printing the letter verbatim in our minutes. And I know you wanted it entered into the record. So basically, I will try to go quickly here, that you are writing on behalf of you and your wife. You live in Old Homestead West, and you are requesting that the city issue a temporary hold on tree permits and any similarly issued permits until such time as our city council, city attorney, and any appropriate city departments conduct a review of the facts and circumstances pertaining to the issuance of a permit or any other similar permits. Basically, I will try to summarize what the situation is, because the letter is long and very detailed and extremely well written. That tree permits have been issued for a lot that is next door to the Sundquist Bolson household, and that they plan on taking out numerous trees, including 4 landmark trees, and they have been issued a permit through the city, and they are concerned as to why landmark trees that are healthy are being taken down, and does our ordinance actually have any teeth in it? And so I've turned this over to the city attorney to look at, and I will now have him give a quick summary or report of what we plan on doing.
Certainly. Well, thank you, Mayor. We did receive this letter this afternoon, taking a look at it, also started looking at the ordinance to identify the areas of concern in the ordinance. And we'll be doing some follow-up with city staff regarding the permit that was issued and the basis for that permit, to ascertain whether there are indeed any issues or not that need to be addressed relative to that permit. As far as the ordinance itself, it was prepared many years ago and approved by City Council with Planning Commission input. It is part of the zoning ordinance that the city has had in place for many years to address trees. It does treat residential tree removal somewhat different from development-type tree removal. And so working through the ordinance sometimes can be a little confusing as between those two things. We'll be looking at it in connection with that as well. And it could be a future item for discussion at council, the ordinance itself at least. But for the permits that were issued today, not today, but recently and in the past, they would have been issued under the current ordinance. That doesn't mean you can't look at it going forward for the future.
Yes, Mr. Bridges and I had received communication separately from Karen Bolson, and I had reached out to the city, assistant city manager, and then through the planning department. My major concern is clear cutting and our efforts to protect sustainability in large trees, and whether or not we have a replacement requirement for such trees in our ordinance, and allowing landmark trees to come down because they may be close to a house even though they're healthy without any replacement. Arborvitae are bushes and not trees, and to replace landmark trees with arborvitae may not be in the spirit of what we're trying to do. So we will be looking at this, and I know, Mr. Bridges, do you want to add anything?
I do. I just want to ask a quick question to the city attorney regarding our ordinance. Is a permit required for cut down any tree? Is a permit required to cut down any tree at a residential property?
No, there is the ability to cut down a certain number of trees. I believe it's 2 in any given year, calendar year period. You can cut down 2 trees. That could be any tree that's not a landmark tree, as I understand it. There also is a provision in the ordinance for an emergency situation where a tree has perhaps leaned into utility lines or onto a house and is imminent danger. There is a provision in there to address that as well separately.
Well, this permit was involving 9 trees. So it seemed kind of excessive regarding the number of trees. The second question I asked, does the city hire a expert to determine the condition of the tree in regards to, is it a dead tree, is it a diseased tree? How does the city determine that, or what the condition of the tree is? You're not a tree expert, I know, but is a botanist involved or somebody who's an expert in trees make that determination that this tree is dead, therefore it could be cut down?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to address at least part of that. I'm not sure if the city hires an outside consultant. I don't believe it does, but it does have some in-house personnel that have some expertise in this area. The ordinance, interestingly, has a provision, it's interesting to me anyway, and hopefully to you, it has a provision that gauges, it has a provision for whoever's making the determination in the planning department to use the test. There's a set of criteria for determining the health of a tree. Okay. And if it reaches over a certain score, it is not healthy and can be, a permit can be granted for it, but if it's under that score, then a permit cannot be issued for it. In this instance, it appears that some of the trees were identified, and I don't know which ones or how many, did not meet that criteria, and so the permit was granted for some of them. And there is also a provision in the ordinance for trees that are determined by the city officials in charge of administering this ordinance to determine that the trees could be a danger to a structure or building. There are other situations when they can issue permits to cut down more than the 2 trees. Those are just the 2 that relate to this particular permit. I won't go through all the others with you.
My last question is, Mayor, regarding the Mr. Sundquist's request, is there a process in place in regards to putting a hold on this situation regarding this particular request, and for a second review to determine, to make sure that that we are doing what is necessary within our ordinance, and that there's nothing that's maybe could change in regards to the permit? I mean, is there a process in place to put that, set aside the permit and do a review and then come back with another decision, another appeal process?
The process, as I understand, is an administrative process, as I read it in the ordinance, and it's a determination made administratively. It doesn't come to council for any sort of a decision. It probably might fall in line with a category of, you know, the city issues many permits administratively, and it would fall into that sort of category. Various departments have the authority under ordinances to issue various types of permits, and that is where this lies. It does not have to go to the planning commission or city council for approval, or a second approval.
This proponent is asking us to set it aside. Is that possible to do that? Set the permit, decision aside and for review?
That's one of the things I'm looking into. It was a permit that was issued and has been issued for a period of time already. I don't believe the trees have been taken down yet. We're looking into that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Knoll?
Yeah, I'm not speaking particularly about this case, or this situation, I should say. But we have a process in place, and I think one thing it is important to remember that, for example, 9 trees may sound like a lot, but everything is relative. If you have 50 trees on your property, 9 trees really isn't that much. So I think we just need to keep everything in perspective. Again, I don't want to speak in specifically about this, but I do know that this property has lots of trees on it. You know, I didn't count them, but it could potentially have 50 trees on it. It's very wooded. So I think we need to be careful and not jump to conclusions just about, you know, 9 trees sounds like a lot. And again, I don't know what trees they want to take down, so I'm not commenting on it. I just think we need to be careful and not say taking down all trees is bad. Trees too close to your house is not a good situation. I know I have taken down trees, healthy trees next to my house, because what happens is when you have a piece of property that has potentially 25 to 50 trees on it, they get so crowded that the trees start growing. The trees want sunlight. They're gonna grow to that light. So where is their light? Above your roof. And all of a sudden, all the trees around your house start growing in and over your roof. Then you don't get any sun on your roof, which causes all sorts of moss. Moss damages your shingles. You can have roots in the foundation. Anytime there's a storm, you're constantly having branches. Trees always shed branches, even healthy trees. It's just how it works. And you've got branches constantly dropping on your roof, which then can cause damage, not just to potentially your roof, but they fall on your deck, they fall on your furniture on your deck, breaking. I've had a table on my deck break because a branch fell on it. So we have a process in place. Let's let the attorney take a look at it, but I don't want to jump to conclusions because there are very legitimate reasons why people have trees taken down, especially when they're close to the house. Like I said, I don't know where these trees even are in relationship to the house and the yard. So we just got to look at the big picture.
Dr. Massey?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And what I would actually to the city attorney, and I'm not commenting on enough comment on this particular spot, but you had indicated that the tree ordinance was put into place some period of time ago, and there was addressing both developmental areas where a number of trees may be removed in order to develop a particular parcel versus the homeowner's part. Given that our city has evolved and is pretty much built out, maybe we should take a look at this. Do you know when our ordinance was passed? But it was a while back.
It was a while back. I believe well over 10 years ago, maybe even longer. It's been quite some time.
Much longer, yeah.
Yeah, and that was when I started reading about this, my thought was maybe it's worth us taking a look at that, given the changes that have taken place within the community, and ensure that we're up to date and where we need to be with that particular ordinance.
Yeah. I think that this is a good discussion. We should take a look at the ordinance. There's a balancing act between personal property owner rights, homeowner rights, and our requirements to maintain a green canopy in our city. And if we haven't looked at it in a long time, it doesn't hurt, and just to double check and make sure it's the way we want it to be.
Yeah, I will say that if we have a few more storms like we did on July the 7th, we may be removing a few more trees inadvertently. But that said, I would move that for us to
I
take a
remember
look
when
at
we had the ash trees all come down too.
that. Oh, yeah, there
And
we
you
go.
also don't want them by power lines.
Right.
Mayor Burnett,
Speaking of
If I
all
may,
those issues.
based on the discussion this evening, is this something that the council would like added to a study session for discussion
Yes,
upon the completion of Mr. Jopik's review?
yes,
Yes.
Okay.
absolutely.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and in that vein, I'd like to take a look at, we've lost a lot of trees during the storm this year, and what our policy, if there's any money or grants available to replace some of these trees that have come down in the last 3 or 4 months.
But not near the power lines.
Definitely not near the power lines. But, you know, there are a lot of street trees that have been lost in
Don't
several
plant them in
neighborhoods.
the easements, is what you're saying.
So, yes.
Mayor Barnett?
Yes,
Just to be clear, the study session will be regarding the ordinance and possible attention to the ordinance with
Right.
amendments. And as far as this particular situation that sparked the discussion this evening, I can certainly issue a memo to city council on that
Yeah.
much sooner than a study session.
and it's my understanding you're going to be working through the city staff, through our assistant city manager and our city manager to, okay.
Yes, that's
Fine.
correct.
Okay, that brings us to
Consent agenda.
consent agenda. Councilmember Bolaware, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, okay, the consent agenda for this evening. Number 5, recommended approval of award of proposal for Type 1 ambulance, related equipment and services to Mercy Sales for Type, I don't know if that's 1 or I, Type I ambulances related, is it 1? Type 1 ambulances, related equipment and services for a period of 3 years with possible extensions. CMR 10-21-94. Number 6, recommended approval of award of bid for utility cart with plow to Carlton Equipment Company Incorporated in the amount of $23,330.34. That's CMR 10-21-95. Number 7, recommended approval of award of bid for HAZVAC, a geothermal and building automation systems installation, maintenance and repair to W.J. O'Neill in the amount of $69,931 per year for 2 years, and purchase order to W.J. O'Neill for all budgeted new HAZVAC, geothermal, and building automation systems as needed for 2 years with possible extensions, CMR 10-21-96. Number 8, recommended approval of the City Council Special Joint Study Session meeting minutes of September 20th, 2021. Number 9, recommended approval of the City Council Study Session meeting minutes of September 27th, 2021. And the last, number 10, recommended approval of the City Council regular session meeting minutes of September 27th, 2021.
Okay, is there a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Dr. Massey.
I would move approval of the consent agenda read by the Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
Support.
It's been moved by Dr. Massey, seconded by Councilmember Strickfaden. This is a roll call vote. Is there any discussion? Hearing none?
Councilmember Strickfaden,
Yes.
Newland,
Yes.
Massey,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Bridges,
Yes.
Bulaware,
Yes.
and Mayor Barnett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now is time for public questions and comments. It's limited to 5 minutes for any item of business not on the agenda tonight. Does anybody want to come forward with anything to say? Seeing John not rushing to a microphone. I guess I will now close the public comment section and move to city council members' comments and announcements. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just one real quick thing, and that is that following our September the 28th meeting with DTE, where we had the opportunity to talk to them about our community concerns, if you will. There was a comment there in my discussions. They did say that we should start to see something within about 2 weeks, and within a week, I had a project planners walking through the neighborhood, and last week, they started trimming trees on all of those areas in the area in which I live, and I have to say, they are working long hours. They're working till dusk every night, and so I just wanted to say it was good news to see them out there, and I'm encouraged. So that's my only comment.
Yes. Unfortunately, the people in Rolling Oaks yesterday who had no electricity in a sunny day outage were not as pleased. Mr. Bridges.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Massey, for those comments. We appreciate that, but they have a long way to go, as you know, in order to be reliable. I have heard the CEO of DTE on the radio commenting specifically about North Farmington and how hard it's been hit this past summer regarding these outages. So again, I like the president being in the community, but they got a long way to go in order to satisfy me in regards to what they're doing regarding reliability in our community. My comments also, I wanted to ask, talk to the mayor about this before, also and the city manager about getting a report in regards to the American Rescue Act dollars.
We're going to be doing that.
Are we already doing that?
Yes,
Okay.
we're going to be doing that, and then the other, the traffic
Yeah,
in
traffic control.
neighborhoods. Yes, we're going to be looking at that. too.
Excellent. I just wanted to make comment about that we get a report on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Outside of that, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, those, I talked to City Manager Mekchin about that before he left town.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we're going to be discussing both of those.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yes.
that.
Councilmember Newland.
Well, still talking about trees, I have to do a shout out really because we had an acute situation in my area where a very, very large tree, and everyone had pictures of it, to see it had fallen down over one of the roads, hit the edge of a garage on a very dreary, rainy night, and I'm between Davy Service and DTE out there, so Davy is trees, and DTE was out there. They had us up and running probably within about 5 hours. A very, very large area that was out. So again, I'd like to do a shout out because I was very impressed that they got us up and running so fast, including, and the internet got too, so.
Yeah. Well, on that wonderful note, I am in communications with the Michigan Public Service Commission, and I will be participating as the municipal representative in a education discussion that they will be presenting on October 22nd. So I will keep you informed about what that looks like and how it's going to go. And we're going to keep the pressure on DTE to make sure that our grid is returned to reliability, sustainability, and robustness. Anybody else for council member comments and announcements? Okay, city manager update?
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. On behalf of Mr. Mekchin, I have a couple of announcements I wanted to share with you. First of all, with regard to the 11-mile road project, which is a city project, that's between Middle Belt and Inkster, that's scheduled for the top coat of asphalt this week. So we are reaching the completion of that project. So that'll be, weather permitting, we'll have that top coat on and down by the end of this week and hopefully wrapping that project up shortly. So I want to share that with you. Additionally, on behalf of the clerk's office, we have begun mailing out the absentee voter ballots for the November 2nd general election. Voters can turn in their ballots by mail, in person, or at the city clerk's office counter, or at one of 2 drop boxes outside of City Hall. Additionally, there will be a Michigan Makers Market at the Hawk on Saturday, October 16th from 10 to 4. This arts and crafts show has free admission and features high-quality art in a variety of price ranges and disciplines, and we encourage the public to come out and participate. One last note, just in follow-up to Councilman Bridges' comment in regards to the DTE work. While they have started that work, and they are progressing with that. There is going to be a time horizon here to get that work done. First step effectively is to do the tree trimming so they can assess the poles that are now hidden by those trees. So the tree trimming will be effective in terms of future downed trees. But the next step is then to come in and do an assessment on all those transformers and lines, and then make those corrections. And then the last step is effectively to look at the entire grid system for Farmington Hills. That's a little bit longer term proposition. But it is a kind of a stepped approach, and I just wanted to acknowledge that while you are seeing some action out there, and there will be some reliability improvements as a result of that, this effort is ongoing, and we will continue to pursue, as Mayor Barnett said, all the options available to us so we can ensure that there is reliable electricity in Farmington Hills. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is new business. Consideration of adoption of a resolution establishing the Farmington Hills Innovation, Energy, and Environmental Sustainability Committee. And you have the draft resolution in front of you. Who would like to introduce this? Mr. Jaffe?
Sure. Thank you. Thanks to the excellent input from City Council at your last meeting, we made an effort to insert the revisions that you see in the agenda, the resolution that's part of your agenda packet. It's been tracked so you can see exactly what changes we put in there to address your comments. We hope that we met each of the comments that you made. There was one typo that was pointed out to me. Thank you very much for that, Mayor. It is in the fourth line of paragraph 3, the word from DTE, or form DTE, should be from DTE. The R and the O are inverted. Apologize for that typo, but that would need to be corrected in the final version if this is adopted this evening.
Okay, is there any discussion? Is there a motion? Ms. Knoll?
Sure, I will make a motion here that we adopt the resolution establishing the Farmington Hills Innovation, Energy, and Environmental Sustainability Committee.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilmember Knoll, seconded by Dr. Massey and Mr. Bridges. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you very much. And item number 4 is consideration of establishing a joint ad hoc subcommittee to discuss master planning and visioning process. We had a study session with the Planning Commission regarding looking over some of our ordinances and how we want to look at the master plan going forward. And so I have recommended 3 members of council serve on that joint ad hoc committee, and that would be Councilmember Knoll, Councilmember Strickfaden, and myself. And so I don't know if we need any other further discussion of it. Okay, so is there a motion to approve?
Mayor?
Yes,
I
Mr.
move.
Bridges.
I move the council approve the establishment of a joint ad hoc subcommittee to discuss master planning and visioning process.
Support.
And the appointment of?
And appointment of Matt Strickfaden, council member to the committee, as well as Mayor Barnett and council member Valerie Knoll.
Mayor, there is a recommended motion in the, it just includes the appointments by CC and then authorizing Planning Commission to make their own appointments.
Okay, let's see here.
As
Right.
part of the,
Okay.
I don't see that. Where's that located at?
part of the memo, at the bottom of the memo, there's a recommended motion
And
there.
further authorizes the chair of the Planning Commission to appoint 3 of its members at its next meeting with approval of the appointment by the Planning Commission, and for said subcommittee to dissolve upon commencement and implementation of the master planning process. I believe those were the words you were looking for, correct?
Those were the words I'm looking
Yes.
for, and I accept those words as my own, as my own.
It's always a joy speaking for you, Mr. Bridges.
As my own. Let's look who's the second.
So it's been moved by Mr. Bridges, seconded by
Support.
Councilmember Bolaware. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. That passes unanimously, and that brings us to the attorney's report. Does anybody have any questions of the attorney? None? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Bridges, supported by Dr. Massey to adjourn. We will now stand adjourned to our next meeting in 2 weeks. Good night, Farmington Hills.